A man's wife is dying of a rare cancer. There is one drug that might save her, discovered by a local druggist who is charging 10 times what the drug costs him to make. The man cannot afford it. He offers to pay later, but the druggist refuses. Should the man steal the drug? This is the Heinz dilemma, perhaps the most famous thought experiment in developmental psychology, and it was used by Lawrence Kohlberg not to determine the right answer, but to reveal the quality of moral reasoning behind whatever answer someone gave. Kohlberg, who built on Jean Piaget's work on cognitive development, proposed that moral thinking develops through a universal sequence of 6 distinct stages, organized into 3 levels, and that the stage of moral reasoning matters far more than the specific moral conclusions a person reaches. Kohlberg's research involved interviewing children and adults of different ages with moral dilemmas like the Heinz story and analyzing not just what they said but how they reasoned. His findings, first published in the 1950s and refined over decades, revealed a remarkably consistent developmental progression that he believed was universal across cultures, though the pace and endpoint varied considerably between individuals. The first level is pre-conventional morality. This is the morality of young children, though it persists in some adults. At this level, moral reasoning is entirely egocentric. Right and wrong are defined entirely by consequences for the self. Stage 1 is obedience and punishment orientation. Rules are followed to avoid punishment. Stealing is wrong because you'll get in trouble. Right action is obedience to authority, and the physical consequences of an action, how severely it's punished, determine its moral weight. There is no sense of others' perspectives, only the authority's power and one's own safety. Stage 2 is individualism and exchange, sometimes called the instrumental purpose stage. Children now understand that others have needs too, but morality is still fundamentally self-interested. Right action is what's fair in the sense of even exchange. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. The Heinz dilemma is approached pragmatically. Maybe he should steal, because his wife might do the same for him someday. The second level is conventional morality, the level at which most adults operate most of the time. Here, morality is defined by conformity to social rules and the expectations of others. Stage 3 is interpersonal relationships, the good boy or good girl orientation. Right behavior is what pleases others, what earns approval. Intentions begin to matter. You judge actions by whether they reflect good motives and care for relationships. Heinz should steal because he loves his wife, and that's what a good husband does. Stage 4 is maintaining social order. Morality is now about upholding laws, social institutions, and one's duties within society. Rules exist for good reasons. Breaking them, even for sympathetic reasons, undermines the social fabric. Heinz shouldn't steal because laws against theft exist to protect property rights and social order, and one person's situation doesn't justify making exceptions. The third level is post-conventional morality, which Kohlberg believed only a minority of adults ever reach. Here, moral reasoning moves beyond social norms to abstract ethical principles. Stage 5 is social contract and individual rights. Laws are seen as social agreements that serve human needs, not absolute mandates. When laws fail to serve justice or human welfare, they can be questioned and should be changed through legitimate means. Heinz should probably steal. The right to life overrides the right to property, but he should also accept the legal consequences, because the social contract matters even when specific laws are inadequate. Stage 6 is universal ethical principles. At this higher stage, morality is based on self-chosen, abstract ethical principles, justice, human dignity, equality, that transcend any specific society's laws. When laws violate these principles, one follows the principle. Kohlberg associated this stage with figures like Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela, people who defied unjust laws in principled, consistent ways based on universal conceptions of human dignity. Kohlberg's theory has been criticized, most notably by Carol Gilligan, who argued that his stages privileged a justice orientation associated with masculine moral development while undervaluing a care orientation more characteristic of women's moral reasoning. This critique led to important refinements in how moral development is studied and understood. But the core insight endures. Moral reasoning develops, and not everyone develops it fully. The way you think about right and wrong is not fixed. It can grow toward greater complexity, greater empathy, greater capacity to reason from principle rather than fear or conformity. Subscribe to Psychology. Theories explained for more psychology breakdowns every week.